Welcome to another edition of the Red Pill Diaries. I'm your host, Rashid, and right now, as always, we're trying to get through some technical issues. I'm on one computer viewing everything, and I'm on another computer trying to change back things that I guess went to a default that I didn't set it to. And I keep asking why, when I allow comments, that the comments are removed. In every show, I have to go back to make sure that the comments are allowed to show. And I'm back in it, and someone changed it again. So that's what I'm doing. So everybody, please forgive me for this, but I have to try to do this because a lot of good comments are erased and deleted and stuff like that, and I have no control over it. So when you see the show and you don't see your comments up there, I had nothing to do with it. I continue to try to do this. But again, welcome to another edition of the Red Pill Diaries. I'm your host, Rashid. This is the weekend rundown on the latest breaking news, be it political, geopolitical, culturally, or economics. We're going to break down the latest things that are taking place. And I want to thank everyone for joining me. But if you give me 1 second, okay, give me 1 second. Let me, this is my fault here. I want to make sure that the co-host, Rashid, got the links, because sometimes we have to send the links 2 and 3 times via email and text messages because for some reason they don't go through, okay? So give me 1 second and let me try to do this. All right, let's see. Here we are. Hopefully that'll go through. And I want to give a salute. I know No Way Out was in the chat. He was the first one in the chat, and I was looking. This is what made me look. Right before the show started, No Way Out was in the chat. And as soon as, I think it was No Way Out. Let me see. Let's see what it is. Because it may be deleted on the public chat. But in my private, the personal. No, it was Astral Atmosphere. It was Astral Atmosphere. And that's what made me go back really and look at the little comments or whatever, because I saw one on my platform, on my dashboard, his chat, but I didn't see it on the regular chat. So I want to apologize to him right now. And also I want to shout out to Kabuta, salute, for joining us also. Now, let's get into this. Let's see if we can pull up some news and let's chop it down. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh, and I got some clips I want to play with you all. I was listening to this interview given by the former Assistant Secretary of the Treasury, Paul Craig Roberts. And I was listening to him being interviewed by Sputnik News. I finally realized the proper way to pronounce it is Sputnik. I'm sorry for all the times I've said Sputnik, but it's Sputnik. Okay. And I heard the commentator from Sputnik News say this is Sputnik News. So I want to apologize to Sputnik for butchering the name of the news site and the name of the broadcast. Okay. But we're going to go into that just shortly. But let's check up on something. Again, we're going to go to a new article. And I have to scan the articles first. So to make sure I can pull up a few good articles. Let's see. All right, here we go. We got a good one right here. And I haven't even read it yet. But let me click on it. I see the title of it, so I know it. And then we're going to go into it. And hopefully by this time, I'm trying to buy some time for Rashid to get on the air. Excuse me. But the name of the article is titled, "The IMF has just unveiled a new global currency known as the universal monetary unit that is supposed to revolutionize the world economy. Now, we know that the IMF, we know that the IMF is pretty much controlled by the Western world. And even before reading this article, if America has more clout in the IMF than anybody else, and if America has more clout, and Britain too, American Britain has more clout in the IMF and more clout in the World Bank and more clout in the United Nations. Well, can we put too much stock in, quote unquote, the IMF's introduction of a new currency? And is it to try to undermine what the BRICS nations are trying to do? Because if you look at it from the outside, you can say, oh, a world currency, or this is what they call currencies outside of the US dollar. But I want to put something on your mind for a minute. If the United States has been issuing the world reserve currency for decades, right? And it was accepted around the globe as a form of payment for goods. If we take reserve out of it, what does that statement say? The world's currency, right? So it is a global currency. They put these connotations on to try to make other currencies that come out to be something draconian or something that is to be on, because it leads into a so-called one world government, one world order. Well, if that's the case, you have to look at the British pound that was the world's reserve currency, and the other European nation prior to that, which was the world's reserve currency, and the other European nation before that was the world's reserve currency. And then you have to focus completely on the United States and the US dollar, which is still right now the world's reserve currency, or the global currency that is accepted around the world. These plays on words are just mind-boggling, and people let this go over their heads. But if the UN and the IMF and the World Bank has, if the United States has a larger share and a larger pool and a larger say in that, what does that say about this so-called new currency that, I might add, is being revealed right now to try to upend what the BRICS have already announced that they would be doing in Africa? I think it's Durban, South Africa. When the BRICS meet, see, this is to try to nullify Africa's ascendance on the international stage, South Africa's ascendance to prominence on the international stage, and to minimize the BRICS groupings and the BRICS Plus groupings and all of their affiliates, and also at the same time to undermine the yuan and these other currencies that are now being geared towards undermining and uprooting dollar hegemony. This is what this is about. But let's go and I haven't even read the article yet, but let's go further. It says a new global currency just launched. Okay. Why did it just launch? And why is it now being announced that it just launched after the recent last month or so, when Brazil, when South Africa, when Russia, when China, the BRICS nations, when they announced that they would be trading in their local currencies amongst each other, and they'll be making regional currencies. Remember, Brazil inked the deal with some Latin American nations for a regional currency. Remember the ASEAN, ASEAN grouping, which is the second largest. I used to say it's the largest, but it's the second largest trading bloc on the planet. And I'm going to tell you which one is the first one, okay? And it flips flop from time to time, but I'm going to tell you which one is the largest. It's going to blow your mind. But the ASEAN, they are doing a lot of their trade in yuan, because the largest trading partner to these nations in that grouping is China. Then we look at Russia, which is accepting yuan and issuing yuan bonds and settling their trade in yuan and rupees, and a basket of different currencies, and they have agreed in the Eurasian Economic Bloc to start using the ruble or a agreeable currency for their trade. And then we look at Africa. The African trading bloc is the largest trading bloc on the planet, contrary to a lot of people's beliefs. At last writing, the African trading bloc is the largest trading bloc on the planet, followed by ASEAN. Okay? They have agreed to start accepting local currencies, African currencies, in nation-to-nation trade. And a lot of them have already started accepting yuan and started issuing yuan denominated bonds, like Nigeria, where America wants to put and has a drone base, ironically. So when we look at these things, all of this stuff is geopolitical, economic, culturally mixed together. And to look at one without looking at all of them will leave you in want, because you won't get the entire picture of what is actually taking place, okay? Hopefully Rashid will join soon. I said it again. And if you hear scratching and you hear that, I have the window up and the chickens are out in the yard. They're scratching for worms and stuff like that, so you'll hear that. So ignore that, okay? I live out in the country and I love it. But let's go. And it says the Universal Monetary Unit. Nobody really even heard of this, so it comes out of nowhere. The Universal Monetary Unit, also known as Unicoin, not unicorn, but Unicoin, all right, is an international central bank digital currency that has been designed to work in conjunction with all existent national currencies. This should set off alarm bells for all of us, because the widespread adoption of a new global currency would be a giant step forward for the globalist agenda. The IMF did not create this new currency, but it was unveiled at a major IMF gathering earlier this year. Now, again, let's go back to something. I think Western thinkers, Western writers, Western enlightened minds, they don't view the United States currency as a global currency in the same way that they view the other nations that are trying to bring in a currency outside of dollar denomination. Everything that is brought on outside of dollar denomination is viewed as draconian or wicked or ulterior motives or something like that. But let us look at something. Let us just, for 1 second, just look at things as they are. Not as we want them to be, not as we suppose them to be, but as they are. Okay? America has how many bases around the world? Let's just go with the most modest estimate of between 800 to 1,000. Let's not even go up to the 5,000 with all the training bases and armaments, supply stations and all of that stuff. Let's just go with the most moderate estimates, which is between 800 to 1,000. What are those bases there for? Let's be honest. Those bases are there and they have been designed there in strategic areas where minerally resource-rich nations are, and strategic trading routes, be they land or sea, right? And why are they there? They are there to dominate geopolitically so that the world can remain on what? The US dollar as the world's reserve currency. Now, if we take world out and put global, what would that mean? Because they are the same, you can switch those out ad infinitum, and it would still mean mostly the same thing. So we take what? The world's reserve currency out and put global in there where it says world. The U.S. has the global reserve currency. And what has the U.S. been doing for the past 40, 50, 60 years? She's been cementing her positions around the world to dominate. She has a policy that is deemed full spectrum dominance. Her open policy is to not allow any nation or combination of nations to rise up to be able to challenge or threaten her position as the #1 power in the world. That is her stated policy. So if we look at things as they are and not as we want them to be or as they should be, we can see that the world reserve currency or the global currency is the United States. And we can see that the United States, England, and NATO have gone to war to prevent the rise of any alternative power or currency, which means that they want to dominate and dictate under their model of governance. So they are trying to impose a what? One world government. That is what's going on. So let's not overlook these things. I see Rashid in the booth, and I'll bring him in just a second on the bottom end of what I'm saying. So we go into this conspiracy stuff, and we say that they're trying to impose a global or one world government and a one world global reserve currency. Hell, they're doing it. They've been doing that for the last since 1914. America has been trying to dominate the world and impose upon the world its form of governance. Listen to what they say. It is the spoken mantra with all of the politicians. We can't let China rise. Well, we must protect our values. How are you protecting your values in the Philippines? You are imposing your government and your dictates on other governments. That's trying to force everybody in the world to be up under your model of governance, regardless of culture, race, religion, or theology. That's what you're doing. And you're using what? The global or the world's reserve currency to do it. So they say that we must fight in Ukraine because Ukraine is a democracy, right? This is what they say, right? We must, and you've heard all of the senators, the congressmen, all of them say things of this matter. That is a form of governance. So you are trying to fight to force and impose your governance on other people. The way you do business, the way you do politics, the way you do culture, right? And you're doing it through the barrel of a gun and through your currency. That is a one world government mindset and a one world currency mindset. So you don't have to look to the IMF, which is run by the United States, Great Britain, and the Western world. You don't have to look to the World Bank, which is run by the US, Great Britain, and the Western world. You don't have to look to the United Nations, which is run by the United States, Great Britain, and the rest of the Western world. All you have to do is look at America, Britain, and the Western world's policies. Why did they go into Libya? Oh, he was a tyrant. Gaddafi was, even though they took poll after poll after poll after poll. And the lowest rating that Muammar Gaddafi got in those polls with a nation between 5 and 7 million people was 80%. 80% approval rating. And he even had, in some polls, 93% approval ratings. Muammar Gaddafi. But he was a dictator, according to the West. And this dictator offered healthcare, free energy, free medical, free education, free water, free food. And the people of Libya got a share of the oil and gas revenue sold abroad. And got married, you got a $50,000 stipend at home. I like to live up under a dictator like that. Because in this democracy, we catching hell. In this democracy, they are so greedy for profit that they charge you for the things that God gave free. I want you to understand this. Rashid, I'm gonna bring you in. I want to make this point home. When I saw you jump in the booth, I was heading toward a point. Then I'm gonna bring you in. Over there, you got free water, free power. I want you to understand something. They are so greedy for profit over here. They charge you for the things that are in abundance. Water. That is your God-given right. And some people, some states, some cities have it where you can't even catch rainwater. It's against the city or the county ordinance. They charge you for the most basic thing that you get when you come into the universe. Air. You have to pay $2 to get air, $3 to get air. If that is not parasitic, tell me what and even to show you how greedy the Western world is, they charge you for dirt, for soil that is free to pick up. And they make you believe that they're doing you a service by charging you for the things that is inherently yours by you being birthed into this universe. But you've been so beaten down, browbeaten by the propaganda and by the culture of all of this. You accept this as normal. And you look at other people who don't as dictators. Then you try to force your way and your thoughts and your culture and your ideas and your financial system on other people. Why did America overthrow Gaddafi? Because of the financial system. And all of the Western world was with him, with America, to continue to maintain dollar hegemony. Isn't that trying to force your currency as to be number one without a rival? And you did it with the barrel of the gun. Why did they bomb Libya? To destroy the man-made aqueducts, the man-made rivers, so that Africa could not become the breadbasket to the world? Is that not imposing your form? And then you put tyrants in charge. And look at the chaos over there. But that's democracy. Look at the democracy that America and Great Britain and NATO brought to Yugoslavia. Look at the democracy and the kind of government that they brought to Afghanistan. Look at what they've done to Haiti. Look at what they're doing down in Peru. Look at the democracy that they brought to Ukraine. Yet they want you to believe that anybody that is reaching for something better, there's an ulterior motive. And they're trying to impose upon a world government when we are living in their policies of imposition right now. They are trying to impose their culture, their government, their way of governance, their life, and their politics and political system on you through propaganda, through financial coercion. And if those things don't work, then eventually through the barrel of a gun. That's how that goes. Let me bring Rashid in. Let me end up this matter here. Okay. Greetings, my good brother, and what have you to say on this matter?
Same thing. Greetings to you too, brother. Well, same thing like we've been saying all along. When she comes with her democracy, you better run for the hills. Her democracy means to bomb up the people, rob everything and steal them, rape them, rob them, and murder people. Look at, like you said, look at the democracy she brought to Iraq. Wherever she goes, hell follow close behind. Did you hear what I just said? Where is that from at? Is that from scripture? With the pale horse? Wherever she goes, hell follows close behind. You can't say that these people are doing better with that democracy stuff, huh? Democracy is just another word for robbing, stealing, raping, and murder. That's all it is. And then him thinking that he's the king of the world, what do you call it? It's manifest destiny. Because he did destiny. It. It's all right, right? Right? God put me in charge, and whatever I do is all right, even if it's contrary to the laws of nature. But whatever I do is right. Whatever somebody else do is wrong. You know, there was an old Twilight Zone episode where the guy who was running around was going to make all of the evil people 2 feet tall. Anybody pissed him off, okay, you just wait. At 2 o'clock, you're going to get yours. You know what happened at 2 o'clock, don't you? He was 2 feet tall. And that's the way the empire is. You know, I am great, everybody else is wrong. But according to his own scriptures, he is the evil one. Yeah. Right? Oh. That's who he is. He is what do you call himself? Dr. Evil. It could not be a better name put to him. Mm-hmm.
They're freezing Rashid now. Okay, he unfroze. Check this out. I want to go back to something that you said because you hit a major point. And we cannot skip over this point that you made. Her manifest destiny. This is major because most people overlook this. This is, according to Google, I just put in the word manifest and then destiny came up. I didn't put in the second word, but you put in manifest destiny and this is what comes up. Manifest destiny, a phrase coined in 1845, is the idea that the United States is destined by God, its advocates believed, to expand its dominion and spread democracy and capitalism across the entire North American continent, and then it turned into the entire globe. Is that not trying to rule under one world, one government, one currency? Oh, that's what that is. But the people in America cannot see that. The people in the West cannot see that. They look, Russia and China is trying to establish a one world currency and a one world government under BRICS. Their manifest destiny, their stated destiny, their stated goal is to impose their financial system, their government, their culture, and the way they do business on the entire planet. And you don't think that that's one world government. You don't believe that that's a one world currency. Tell me what currency is used more than the dollar. No. So if the world uses the dollar, that's pretty much a world currency, a global currency. Okay, what's the second most used? The euro. Okay, who made the euro and the European Union? The United States. So by extension, we're still talking about the dollar. And let us look at one of the, I think it's the third or the fourth most used currency, the British sterling pound, which is an extension of the dollar and vice versa. So we're still looking at America trying to impose her dictates, her policies globally through her policy of divine right. That's what is it. The manifest destiny is what she views as her divine right to do this. Now, if anybody else tries to alter this or do something outside of that, then that's a one world government. That is something we should be warned against. That's a one world government. That's a one world currency. But you're not looking at that. You're sitting in one right now. The world reserve currency is the dollar. The United States, Britain, and NATO are trying to impose their monetary system and their way of governance on the entire world. We must fight for democracy. Democracy is a way to exploit people. It's a way to exploit people. It's where the haves can continue to have and exploit the ones that have no, that doesn't have anything. So again, this is where we are. As a matter of fact, this is why there's so much uproar about war, because the dollar is faltering and the so-called democratic world has become unhinged because of the economic collapse that is underway due to the inherent greed and exploitative way of democracy. Okay? We cannot argue about that. If you want to argue, let's just go to something. Let's go to Mr. Paul Craig Roberts. Let's just, what did he say? We're in a death spiral. Mr. Craig Roberts said that. Let's see. Check this out.
Start with the latest economic news, because we're speaking today, April 12th. It's been a little more than a month following the SVB bank collapse, which generated a wave of turmoil throughout the US financial sector and the European financial sector. But, despite this sort of, I guess you could say, concerning background, during a press conference on Tuesday, US Secretary of Treasury Janet Yellen gave a very upbeat assessment. She said that the US economy is performing exceptionally well, and she said that she says no signs of economic downturn. So my question is this: what do you make of this assessment? Do you share her optimism?
Well, U.S. Treasury Secretaries have to put a positive face on things. I mean, she can't come out and say we're about to have a recession. it's not all that easy to answer the question because U.S. economic data is so bad. The way they measure unemployment and inflation, for example, are designed to understate both. They don't count unemployment in a proper way, and they don't measure inflation in a proper way. There are historical reasons for this. They don't like to measure inflation properly because they have to pay out more on cost of living adjustments, for example, to Social Security. And they never like high unemployment numbers. So we don't really know what the numbers tell us. They're making their optimistic view on the basis of 156,000 new jobs in March. And they claim no further rise in inflation. So they're thinking in the old Phillips curve way that if you want to grow, you have to pay for it by having higher inflation. And they're saying, oh, we're not having the higher inflation, but we still had 156,000 jobs. Well, we don't know if we did or not. There are two ways of measuring jobs, Dimitri. One is the payroll jobs data, which comes from reporting of companies. And the other is the household survey, which comes from surveying households. And the two numbers never match. And the Bureau of Labor Statistics has never been able to reconcile them, and they're wildly inconsistent. For reasons I don't remember, everyone now uses the payroll jobs rather than the household, where they ask the individuals. Well, let's look at these 156,000 jobs really quick. Of 156,000 jobs, there's 21,000 are goods producing. So roughly 1/8 of the jobs have anything to do with producing goods that could possibly be exported to cover the huge imports. Okay, now, where are these produced goods? They are largely in construction. So where do these jobs reside? Well, they reside in retail trade, that is sales, health care and social assistance, leisure and hospitality. In other words, bartenders, waitresses. We have a large number of university graduates, both male and female, working as waiters and waitresses because they can't get good jobs. So these are not the kind of jobs that show that you are a dynamic manufacturing industrial society. So in fact, in the real manufacturing, there's no growth in jobs. So that's not very good idea of a healthy economy. Now, what is the situation? Money supply growth has turned negative. That means it's shrinking. I think the last time this happened was the Great Depression. It's generally, if the money supply growth simply reduces the rate at which it's growing, you get recessions. Well, now we have a negative money supply. Based in historical experience, this is not a good sign.
You see that that we have entered the depression. He said, right? The last time these figures happened and it went negative, it was during the Great Depression, right? I continue to tell you that people tap this around that. Don't want you to realize that it's a depression. We are not about to enter a recession. Go look up the definition of a recession. Go look up, because it may be like different definitions, but go look up the 3 or 4 different definitions of a recession. And we cannot be in a recession because if we count from 2008 up to today, that means that if you go back and just Google this, the recession of 2008, or the recession of 2009, the recession of 2010, the recession of its successor, 11, 12, all the way up. If that is the case, after 2 or more successive recessions, it becomes a depression. And that is the word that they do not want to talk about. Now, this is done under what? The so-called democratically led West. And listen to how insane they are to try to force their economic model, their culture, and their dollar system on you. That they are willing to ignite thermonuclear war to maintain their hegemony. Lunatics. Insane. Right? They don't know how to accept being a person among many people, or a nation among equals, or a nation among other nations, or even second fiddle. In their mind, Newland, Biden, Blinken, Lloyd, Milley, or Miley, or whatever you want to call them. In their mind, America must be top dog at all costs. This is why they said, listen, we can never allow Russia to threaten us, even while they're expanding their borders up to Russia's border. We can never allow China to become the #1 dominant power in Asia. We must maintain that. Why? Why do you have to be the #1 power in Asia? Why do you have to be the #1 power in Africa? Why do you have to be the #1 power in Central and South America and the Caribbean? Why do you have to be the #1 power in Europe? How come it is not enough for you to be the #1 power on the North American continent? Why must you impose your will on everyone else? Huh? I know Rashid has something to say about this. Let me bring him back in because he got knocked off. Go ahead, Rashid.
Well, if they don't knock me off, I wouldn't feel like I was alive. I'd get knocked off at least 3 or 4 times. Would like they if Russia didn't want to be a threat, then why come they keep putting their borders in America? You see? Right up to Russia's border, but Russia, her borders should be in other words, Russia shouldn't have any borders.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically what it is. Russia shouldn't have no borders. We should be allowed to come in and rape and bring democracy like we brought democracy to Iraq, Syria, Libya, Afghanistan, Ukraine. See, that's how Russia should be. Russia should allow us to do the same thing that she done to. But what happened is, I was listening to what you were saying a few minutes ago. This is not a recession. This is not a depression. This is a total collapse that's coming. Remember, everybody getting off her money, right? What is she going to have to trade with people who got commodities, gold, silver, cobalt, diamonds, and America got nothing? Do you think the rest of the people going to continue on taking her worthless dollar bills, and China going to continue to send them huge over here with goods? If they don't have anything to trade with them, then why would anybody send her anything?
Right.
See, this is what they're trying to fight hard against. They could, like you said, they could go over there and slap down Gaddafi and Saddam Hussein and beat up on Assad and beat up on the people in Yugoslavia. But this latest opponent is too big to bully. And they didn't figure out that really, this is I think Paul Craig Roberts said that China or either George Solente then on the West. See, the whole thing was trying to be assimilated into the West.
Stop talking for a second.
And now since the West pulled off this big...
Rashid, hold up. They're messing with your stream. Hold on 1 second. I don't want to miss any important thing that you're saying. Hold on 1 second. As soon as you started talking about this, the streaming started acting up. So Give it about 10 seconds and then start back talking. This is what they're doing to you. All right, now, because you're frozen, I'm trying to see if you unfreeze you or whatever like that. Are you there? Are you there? Because you're frozen. Rashid. Yeah, I know. Yeah, they got him. Hopefully he'll come in. Hopefully he'll come back in and he. All right, go ahead. Now say what you're saying.
Well, maybe. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go say what you're saying now.
Maybe I stepped on the moderator's toes a little bit. Huh? that this total collapse is coming. They don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
Mention that and they start running for the hills. But as we were saying before, that Russia and China are a little bit too big to slop down. And this thing is coming. It cannot be stopped. It cannot be stopped. Nobody in the world would want. They don't have it. You're going to give me, I'm going to send you shitloads of, I'm going to send me some worthless dollars. That nobody wants to buy this. It means the cost of this society. You can't outproduce 0.5 billion people worth. There's no way in the world anything that compete with it. You can't make it cheaper than them. You just can't do it. So the only thing that's left is everybody stop getting off your currency.
You know, America compete with the 1.5 billion people in China. Now it's ironic because I was all the while you were talking, I was trying to re-upload. Every time I try to re-upload this clip from Paul Craig Roberts' interview, right? And it has everything to do with what you just said in there. He specifically brought up that point there in the clip, but it keeps from last night up until today, as I'm trying to, every time it'll file too long, it has to be under 10 minutes, but the clip is only 6 minutes. And it continues to tell me file too long, has to be up under 10 minutes, 10 minutes or under or something like that. But the clip is like 6 minutes. And in the clip, I'm going to say it to people, Paul Craig Ross was pretty much asked, well, they're talking about bringing America's manufacturing home and doing this. Will that work? He said, nope. There's no way that could work. And he goes into why it doesn't work. Then he says that America and the West, they cannot outcompete China. You can't do it. So he said, so we're looking at a very, very bad situation here. And this is, listen, if you don't believe that America is doing what she's doing in Ukraine because she thinks that her time is up, and that you don't believe that America is now positioning to try to fight China because they believe that if they don't get China now, there's no stopping China. So what they're doing, they thought that they could, they thought Russia was still in this weakened stage, you know. They thought that they could bully Russia and cower Russia and then beat Russia, embarrass her and beat her, and then quickly turn to China. And now you hear there's a big brouhaha between people who want to maintain the war in Ukraine, or the ones who want to really pivot to Asia to fight China before 2025, because all of the policies or all of the writings that has come out said that the United States had between 12 and 18 months to challenge China, or else all would be lost. Now, this was last year when they were saying this now. So they really believe that, listen, if we don't get them now, China will ascend and there's nothing we can do because we've already lost dominance, quote unquote, Navy wise, because China is outpacing the United States at an unheard of pace in shipbuilding. And not only are they outpacing them in quantity, but now China has either an equal or a greater qualitative edge in the new weaponry that they're producing. But you have these other people who have this vendetta against Russia so much that they want to continue to go on and keep this fire lit to try to kill Russia a death by 1,000 cuts. But they don't realize that it's the American empire and the Western world which is suffering more cuts than Russia. So if Russia gets a cut here and the Western world gets 40 cuts over here, who do you think is going to bleed out quicker? This is what's going on. So you have these two sides clashing. Not that they want peace, as some would have you to believe. They just want to refocus their energies in what little weapons they have left on China. And I have to say this because this is absolutely the case. And I've heard it spoken of by colleagues of mine and by a few people that was in the intelligence service, and even some of the people who are in government. They don't want China to ascend to the number one position because it is a non-Western, non-white nation. This is what they say. A non-Western, non-white nation that does not feel beholden to the Western system and the Western way of doing things. And so this is why you heard the war secretary, you heard the so-called Secretary of State, you heard the Undersecretary of State, you heard even Joe Biden, the president, talk about China as the most pressing threat to America's national security. Why? Does China have a base in Mexico? No. Does China have a base in Canada? No. Does China have a base in Hawaii? No. So how is China the most pressing threat? Because China has all of the components together. They have the culture. Look how they go into other nations and don't bother with the people's internal or domestic affairs and cultural dealings. They have the economics to buck. America can't sanction. Think about this, the little sanctioning that America does. What if she sanctions China and China say, you know what, we can play the sanctioning game too. And we're just going to sanction all of these entities. Remember that most of America's corporations are in China. So what if China sanctions them and freezes their assets and puts a hold on their manufacturing? Not only would that cause a major effect in the U.S. economy, but it will reverberate around the world, especially the Western world. So China has the economic clout, the cultural clout, and now they have the military muscle to back it up. And this is what is making China a more pressing threat to America's so-called national security than anything, because remember, America's national security is defined by the dollar being the global reserve currency and America being the number one military power on the planet. That is what her national security consists of. And either or that is threatened, they feel that now they must focus their war machine and all of their efforts to try to counter that. Rashid, what have you to say? If they don't, now I might mute you if they start messing with your microphone, and I might do this to tell you to start over again, because every time you start talking, and you start hitting some notes on them, they start messing with your streaming. So go ahead. They are frozen. Hopefully he'll come back in. I hate when they do that. I guess we're hitting them too hard. I guess we're hitting too hard. And they kicked them out of the studio. So again, hopefully he'll try to get back in. Rashid, if you're looking at it through your other device, try to get back in so I can bring you back in. Okay. And maybe this time it'll be even better connection. But let's see. Tiger. And I'm just going to say your first name. I don't want to butcher your second name, but I'm going to highlight it so people can see it, okay? It says, those in glass towers of Washington do not care how much we get cut. You got that right. And it's not just Washington. See, again, I continue to tell everybody that when we say America or we say Washington, you also have to be mindful that London and 10 Downing Street is just as connected. These are one and the same. So when you see one, you see the other. I think in the scriptures, these two nations are styled as the daughters of Babylon. You know, they were the riches of the world, right? And you remember, because in scripture, and I'm not getting religious, but in scripture, Babylon was supposed to have daughters that come up, and these daughters would be more rich and more appealing to the eyes of the people. And so when Babylon fell, the daughters were to suffer the same fate as the mother. And these daughters of Babylon would fall off their mount. They would be seen as the rulers of the world, I would say. And then they would fall off their mount. That fits no bill other than the bill when you say America and Great Britain, or America in the UK, or whatever way you want to chop this up, okay? Or England. All right. So again, the history, I tell people to study the histories of these things, and you can get a better understanding, a clearer picture of what's going on a geopolitical and the economic scene. Not just studying economics, because economics without sustenance really will put you in a position that these so-called investors are in. Look at them. They know that it's collapsing, and they continue to offer you these faulty, failing ideas of how to prevent the collapse. That's because they don't have history behind it. And they don't have a thorough understanding of geopolitics and how things are. Okay. Now let me highlight. Oh, I see Rashid back in the booth. I'll bring him in just a second, because I know you had something to say. Let's see. Let's see. Okay. Well. Oh, I didn't know this. Let's highlight this. Output in 2021, Sudan put the gold, the chromium ore, the manganese, copper, and iron into state hands from U.S. companies. Maybe that is why they're trying to prevent Russia from getting a base over there, and maybe that was another reason why they helped to balkanize the Sudan. You know, the Sudan was at one time the biggest nation in Africa, and just like the Congo was at one time. And what the Western world does, just like they did with Yugoslavia, they balkanized it. They broke it up. They had brothers clash with each other, and then the West stepped in, and now the West did this now by stoking, by arming, by increasing cultural tensions, and then the West steps in and say, "Hey, we have solutions. We'll stop the sanctions for a while. We'll give you economic relief, but you got to go along with our plan. And this is our plan." And that's how they do things. And they want you weak. And if you don't believe what I'm saying, just look at the plan for the Middle East that was cooked up by the United States, Great Britain, France, and Israel. They want a greater Israel. They want Israel to grow in size, and they want to balkanize the other states and make them weak vassal states, unable to defend themselves or disagree with Western dictates. You know, this is crazy. But that's Rashid, I'm gonna bring you in. I want to highlight a couple more members in the chat. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, let me highlight this one by nobody out. It says, and I'm scrolling, so if I overlook some of your post some more up in there. I'm doing it fast and it's scrolling down. Okay, so forgive me. It says at this point today, there are already 83 countries on this world who stopped to use the dollar as a reserve, and payments for goods, tendence rising. This over the years, printed money is coming back. Oh, it's coming back. And then this is where I was looking at this statement right here. This is why you said that in the next statement. So, okay, I get you. It says it will cause a hyperinflation inside the U.S. in the near future. Until 2022, the U.S. printed $1.8 quadrillion. That's a one with 15 zeros, and only 1.2 trillion have been destroyed. Rashid, I'm you back on the screen. I'm gonna let you do your dance on this. Go ahead. You muted. Hold on. Your mic is muted. It says on my side, it says, I can't unmute you. Your mic is muted on your side. So evidently they're messing with him again because he froze. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. I don't understand why they're bothering him. Rashid must have really teed off somebody. Rashid must have really messed somebody up, huh? Anyway, let's go a little further. So again, let me go to this to the clip, because I was able to cut up all of the clips, but I was only able to upload 3 portions of what Paul Craig Robert was talking about. Okay, so I want you to pay close attention to this one right here.
And
We also have the problem.
Sorry to interrupt you, but could you tell for our viewers why a decline and why a negative money supply is correlated with recession? Why is that a sign that a recession could be looming?
Well, what happened during the Great Depression, when they were run on banks, the Federal Reserve did not meet its obligation as a lender of last resort to supply the reserves to the banks to keep them from failing. And so when the bank failed, the money supply would shrink by the amount of the bank's deposits. Today, the money supply shrinks largely, it can still shrink for the same reason. For example, when a bank fails, it still shrinks the money supply, but the Fed also, the way it manages policy, can cause the money supply to shrink. And what it means is the amount of money in circulation no longer supports the amount of goods and services. And so when the money supply shrinks, either the prices of the goods and services have to shrink or the supply of goods and services. And it seems it's always a supply. So when the money supply shrinks, employment shrinks and the economy declines. And so if this measure showing a current decline in the money supply, it's negative growth. If this measure is correct, then it sounds like we're in trouble. Another reason that we are in trouble is the 12 years of low interest rate policy by the Federal Reserve means that the assets on the bank's books, the balance sheet, the bank's balance sheet, the asset side has low interest rate instruments because that's all that was available. So their holdings are paying a low interest rate. Well, when the interest rates rise, all of those holdings decline in value. You see, for a bond, for example, its value is the inverse of the interest rate. If the interest rate goes down, the bond goes up. If the interest rate goes up, the bond goes down. Well, all of these assets that are interest rate sensitive on the bank's books are now below what they cost, but their liabilities haven't declined. So they're technically insolvent. Ed Dowd, the person who led BlackRock for so many years, he recently announced, I think it was Ed Dowd, that there are at least 200 banks who are in the same difficulty as the bank in Silicon Valley, which failed. Now the banks don't have to market, so they can keep their assets on their books at the original value, at their cost. But the trouble is, depositors, seeing that banks are insolvent, they get disturbed and they start pulling their assets out. Well, in order to meet the withdrawals, the banks have to sell the assets, but the assets have lost value, so they are taking losses on every sale. This wouldn't work in terms of meeting all the withdrawals. Another reason people are withdrawing their assets is the banks are now paying practically no interest on deposits. but money market funds are paying 4.5%. So people are taking money out of the bank and putting it in money market funds. Well, according to reports, $1 trillion have been withdrawn from bank deposits. Well, this is a shrinkage of the bank's ability to provide liquidity. So this is a serious situation. How far will this go? How reassuring will the Fed be that it will perform its function as a lend of last resort and prevent these banks from failing? I don't know. Any sort of thing can trigger a serious situation, because the situation is serious. The banks are technically insolvent. So I don't have a great deal of confidence in what the Treasury Secretary said.
So he's telling you just how bad this situation is. Okay. Now we got Rashid knocked out of the booth again. So I want you to bear with me for a second. Meaning of insolvent. The word insolvent, it is an adjective. It means unable to pay debts owed. Bankrupt, the bankrupt, unable to pay one's debt. Ruined, collapsed, defaulting. This is what Paul Craig Roberts, the former Assistant U.S. Secretary of the Treasury, is saying about the banks. And if he's saying that about the banks and the banking system, what is he saying about the U.S. financial system domestically and the U.S.-led financial system globally? Because remember, all of the nations have fornicated with this great whore. America is the great whore in the Bible. And she's fornicated with all of these nations, meaning that she's had all kind of relations with them, economic relations, political relations with them. She's done all of that. And what does that say about it? And think about this. If she's insolvent and we're living in the manifestation of the insolvency of the American Republic and the insolvency of the American Empire, think about all of those nations who are still fornicating with her getting the dollar. They are only getting economic gonorrhea. This is why Russia, being burned by fornicating with the great harlot, has now injected her nation with some economic penicillin. So she's no longer on the dollar system. China has injected its nation with economic penicillin. Iran has injected its nation with economic penicillin. So they're all returning to a healthy way of growth and economics and commerce outside of dollar denomination and dollar domination. So if the U.S. Republic is insolvent and the U.S. Empire is insolvent, and all of these other nations who are not trying to get off the dollar remain on the dollar, what will happen to them? They will start burning economically. Okay? This is what the scripture was talking about when it was talking about that harlot that looked pretty to everybody. Because if you look more and more into it, it talked about that this harlot, she was doing trading. She was doing all of this stuff. That's America. And now she's burning the very nations that she fornicated with. So Russia getting burnt one time, Russia said, oh, no. Let me get me some economic penicillin to stop the burning, to stop the itching. So it cannot get economic gonorrhea anymore. Do you understand this? In layman's terms, nobody is explaining this to you like this, but we have to put the facts to the facts and lay it out before you. Whether anybody agrees with it or not, you can't disprove it. We're saying the truth, okay? Oh, and I see Rashid back in the booth. Man, it took me a second to see him. Let me see. Hopefully they don't throw him off again. Rashid, are you there? What are they doing to the brother? Rashid, are you there? Oh man, are you there? I don't know what they're doing to him, but they do not want him to speak today, and he's just frozen on the screen. And I'll leave him there until he starts moving, and maybe if they don't throw him off, he'll start moving, and then he'll be able to speak. But right now, I can't do anything. So again, this is the reality of the times. And since we're on this, remember what we talked about before, because I want to go back to something real quick, and then we'll come back to this point. And when we were talking about this democracy and this economic one world system that America is trying to force the world on, she wants you to think that any solution outside of the dollar is a one world government, is a one world currency, when we are already in a one world government and a one world currency. Because the United Nations is not representative of the population of the planet Earth. And it is dominated, and it was created by the United States, Great Britain, and the West. And China has a permanent seat there through default. I'm not making this stuff up. I want, for those of you who listen to this show, you know we tell the truth. You know, just like we chop up Obama, we chop up other people, okay? So I want you to hear this. For those of you who never heard this, some of you have already heard this on this platform. When the League of Nations failed, and they were trying to come up with something to take its place, they came up with a 5-seat permanent member situation. They knew that they had to put Russia on this because Russia was powerful. Even back then, the Soviet Union, I should say, the Soviet Union, excuse me. So, but they thought that they could dominate and control global policy through this United Nations Security Council by having America, France, Great Britain up there. Russia, yeah, well, we can manipulate. That's what they would think. The Soviet Union, yeah, we can manipulate. But that's 4. They had plans when they put China on the Security Council. They wanted Shanghai Chek to become the leader of China. And they thought, all their intelligence thought that Shanghai Chek would become the leader of China, because he was, listen to me good, he was a U.S. stooge, but they accepted him because he was a Christian. So they wanted it to be an all-white or all-Christian United Nations Security Council. This is the truth. Look into the history of it. But to their misgivings, Mao Zedong overtook Shanghai Chek. And this is how China got its Security Council seat, through default. You have 5 nations determining the policy for the entire globe, and it is not reflective of the population of the planet Earth. And why must Europe have Russia? And I'm just using this. And Russia is really not a European country. Russia, the majority of Russia is in Asia, to be honest with you. But let's go. France, England. Okay, no representative from South America or Central America. No representative from the Caribbean. Not one representative from Africa. And only one that is considered Asia, which is China. How is that just? How is that representative of the population of the planet Earth when the people who only comprise 11% of the population of the planet Earth dominate and control the policy levels of the United Nations? How is that? So when you start talking outside of the realm of Western domination, it becomes a conspiracy. And they want to change the norm or change the rules-based order. The rules-based order is only rules based on American and Western dictates. And as long as you follow and submit to those, then you may be able to get by a little bit. But if you bump up against those, you quickly become an enemy and demonized. This is unreal. That is the true one world order. I'm not making stuff up. I'm telling you the truth. But no one talks. Why is it that no alternative media talks about that? I'm asked, if we're supposed to be alternative media and we're supposed to tell truth, why is it that no alternative media platform talks about that but this one? Even even if it means alienating some of the viewers, because sometimes when you tell certain parts of truth that people are not comfortable with, they will leave. But I didn't get in here to get 2 million subscribers if it meant compromising the truth. If you were black, white, brown, yellow, purple, polka dot, green, or orange, the truth must be told at all costs. Instead of sitting in these rosy little perceptions of what you think the reality of the world is. We have to tell the truth. That's the problem with the world right now, that nobody wants to tell the truth. And then even when you have the truth, some people are too afraid to tell it because they might miss out over here, or something might happen over there, or they may not get the followers that they want, or they may not be popular over here. Sometimes truth is not popular. Revolutions are not popular. We're a truth revolution. But later on in life, after we've done our job, then people can look back and say, oh, they instigated, they lit the fuse for all of these other ones to start telling the truth, regardless to race, creed, color, religion, or whatever. Okay? I see you back in the booth. I'm not gonna put him back on the screen unless I see him move a little bit in the back. I see him back there, but I don't see him moving, so they may still have him frozen. Rashid, if you hear me, move a little bit to let me see that you're not frozen. Okay. He's free. All right. I see you. I'm real, but I gotta play this clip real quick because we're talking about the democracy, and I'm gonna let you have first say on this after the clip about what democracy of the West has brought to the world. Okay. Pay close attention to this, everybody.
The fact is this, that people are waking up, both in region and beyond, to the oppressive colonial sort of position of the United States. The reality is that for a very long time, political thinkers like Imam Khomeini and Ayatollah Khamenei have been articulating that there is nothing savory about U.S. power and its involvement, not just in Middle East, but indeed beyond. When you look at the history, you see that the United States has brought no democracy, no tranquility to anywhere. You know, going back all the way from Vietnam and then coming forward to today, you actually see that it has created havoc, disunity, and destroyed infrastructure, and put stooges in power to siphon resources for the benefit of 1% in the United States.
You heard what he said. Now I'm gonna before I come in, I'm gonna let Rashid have it because they keep messing with him, and I want him to at least get something said before they start bothering him again. So I'm gonna bring him back in. Go ahead, Rashid.
Don't worry. I this is par for the course with me. Shutting me off. That's one way to shut me up. Never let me say anything. Huh? I didn't even hear what the guy was saying on the clip. What was he saying?
He was talking about everywhere America brings democracy is nothing but havoc, destruction, exploitation, and overthrowing governments and putting their stooges in the power to siphon off the resources and the wealth of other countries for the benefit of the West.
As we said before, wherever she goes, hell follows close behind. You can say that you don't believe in the scriptures and stuff, but it's evidence that what's happening is right in front of your face. It talks about a pale rider. Isn't that what America does? Wherever she goes, hell follows close behind. And that's what she's there for, to stop anybody from living a free and independent life. His democracy is nothing but an excuse to come and rob. As we said before, when she says she's coming to bring you the democracy, you better run for the hills. Right?
Oh, no way out.
That's right. No way out. When
no way out. What country are you? Hold on one second. No way out. What country are you from? You said your country is off the dollar. What country are you representing? If you don't mind, put it in the chat. and then I'm gonna highlight the country that you're from. Go ahead, Rashid.
Well, evidently they done woke up. When he comes with his dollar, his Bible, and his gun, you better watch out, because that's what he's coming to stir up trouble. Once again, wherever he goes, hell follows close behind. Like you said before, look at the prosperous Libya, right? If that ain't hell, I don't know what it is. When she came in with her democracy and brought democracy to him, everybody is poor, broke, and you might get robbed at any moment at a gunpoint. Somebody might slap a 45 or Uzi in your nose and take everything, including your clothes. So if that's not democracy, I don't know what is.
So he says he's from. I don't put the French in front of it. You're from Polynesia. So yeah, I remember in one of the chats you were saying that before, that you got have ousted the dollar, even though the politics talk about it, but you guys don't use the dollar anymore. I think you said you used the yuan or something. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to bring up something while we're waiting for that. Hold on one second, Rashid. I'm trying to pull something up real quick. So if you have something to say, Rashid, go ahead and say it real quick, and then I'm going to abruptly stop you when I pull this up.
Well, as we said before, if you don't have the dollar, then that means you got some natural resources. We have been saying this for years. Why should anybody in his right mind accept the dollar when you can never get nothing in value of return? You can never do it. It has no base, nothing backing it. Only thing it's got is the American military, and now that's winning. She ain't gonna be able to go and slap China and Russia. And remember, I think they said 20 countries is trying to join the BRICS.
The BRICS, yeah,
20 countries are lining up to join the BRICS. 20 countries.
That doesn't include the Shanghai Cooperation Organization or the Eurasian Economic Union or the African.
And a bunch of countries are trying to join that. Who is lining up to get on the dollar?
Yeah.
Who in his right mind is lining up to be robbed, cheated, and stole from?
Yeah. So let me bring something up. Hold on one second. I found something. I'm hoping that it'll look right in the view. So share. Let's see. Give me 1 second. Life. Here we go. Coming up. Yeah, here we are. Share. All right. We should be sharing this right now. What's going on? Is YouTube? I mean, are they going to allow? Are they going to allow? They don't. Yeah. So we should be able. We'll add this. Is he going to come up? They're not even allowing us to put this on the screen for you guys.
It's on now. It's on. I see.
Oh, here we are. All right, it's on there now. So I want you to pay attention to this right here, right now. But let's see. I want to. I'm not to computers, so I would just want to let's see. To our I don't know, because this is my right, but it's your left, I guess. So over here, I'm going to highlight something for you all. All right, this area right here. Let me see. Let's see if Google will let us see it. Dragging and dropping it. Is it going to let it happen? All right. Yes, it is. All right, right here. All right, I'm trying to make it bigger for you all. But the hope of what I'm trying to show you is the before and after pictures of before these nations right here. There's Libya. These are the nations before and after America brought democracy to them. Libya, Syria, Iraq, all of these areas, Afghanistan or whatever. Before over here, and if you look at the before, it's beautiful. All right. Your left, those are beautiful pictures, and on the ethics. So I don't on your screen. Jesus being knocked off. I guess they're messing with him again too. So we'll remove this from the screen and we'll go back to this. I don't know why they're bothering the screen right now. They're trying to stop the flow of the show. Why she move you? All right, here we are. So we're back. So it says No Way Out says a small island group in the South Pacific where the U.S. still unofficial and illegal occupy.
I can't hear a word you're saying.
Microphone, cameras, and stuff, and I was trying to get back on. Yes, you see about this. This is what happens to us, and I want you to understand. If you go to the other channels, they don't experience what we experience, and that should tell you something in and of itself. Now, I don't know if anybody heard me, but let me go back. No Way Out was talking about how the United States were in their fishing waters, their rich fishing waters, illegally fishing, and had almost all of the matter of fact, I'll highlight it for them. Had almost fished all the fishes. They have been banned from there. Let's see. Are they going to allow
it? They didn't pollute it.
Everybody, I want to apologize right now. We have excellent. I can take the picture. We have excellent internet connection, and we have a backup internet box. So for this stuff to do this is not us. This is not us. This is either YouTube or StreamYard, one of the two or both. Okay, but this is what he's. Let's see. It was decided 2 months ago, and now it is official. Our resources are the large fishing grounds where the U.S. was fishing like hell, so that almost no fish were left. Now the U.S. is forbidden to fish here. That's in Polynesia. People know it as French Polynesia, but I don't think it's occupied. Go ahead.
It's a wonder they haven't gone over there and thrown barrels of nuclear waste in the seas over there. That's typical actions for the democracy of the West.
Yeah. And we're gonna on one episode we'll try to highlight if No Way Out will on the next show, if No Way Out will remind me a few shows later, and we'll bring in how certain island nations over there are being pillaged and by the UK, France, and the US, because this is something that and the UK is standing in opposition to a UN mandate for them to allow people back on the island. I forget the name of the island as we speak, that they deported from their own island to turn into a military base. But anyway, and No Way Out says this, and then we'll get back some news and stuff. Okay. So It said Libya was the most advanced country on the African continent with free school scholarships or schoolships, free kindergarten, free university, free care for everyone. As a matter of fact, Libya allowed their students when they all of the education was free and all of the healthcare was free. But if you were a student and you wanted to go, you had your choice to go to school within Libya or choose anywhere around the globe, and the Libyan government would pay you stipends and they would pay for your living quarters and your tuition anywhere. But that was done under a so-called quote unquote dictator. And now nobody is going to college hardly over there because of the chaos and turmoil. But I want to say also concerning Libya, Libya was not just the most advanced country on the African continent, according to a UN report. Libya was one of the most advanced and richest countries on the Mediterranean. You understand? That's a difference. That's a big difference on the Mediterranean. Why did I say that? It's because there are a lot of European countries, Mediterranean Sea. And if Libya was top dog, that shows you there was also jealousy that an African country had superseded them in life expectancy, literacy rates, education, healthcare, technology, all of that. There was a little jealousy in that. So I wanted to bring that point home. Now I want to go back to something. Let me take this off the screen. And I want to go back to something from Mr. Paul Craig Roberts. So give me a second as down. So he said we're in a depression. Now I want you to hear what Paul Craig Roberts has to say about the U.S. policy of sanctions. Okay? Check this out.
It would probably be severe.
And all the while, the United States is sanctioning Russia, it's sanctioning China. How does Washington's foreign policy, contribute to this overall economic background?
Well, Washington's policy of sanctions destabilizes the dollar. But I think it increases the stability in the rest of the world. Why? Because it's taught large countries like Russia, China, India, and it's taught Africa and South America that the dollar is a punishment mechanism. And if you don't follow Washington's orders, whoop, you're sanctioned. And so what they're doing, they're dropping the use of dollar to settle their international balances, to settle their trade balances. They're starting to settle their trade balances in their own currencies. So the demand for dollars in international transactions is falling. Supply of dollars isn't. Washington is running massive trade deficits, massive budget deficits. This all has to be financed. And so there are more and more dollars coming out. Instruments denominated in dollars, treasury bonds. So when you have the demand for your currency falling because countries are saying, hey, we're not using the dollar, we're trading with each other in our own currencies, or at least the demand for dollars is no longer rising with world trade because they're finding other ways to settle their accounts, but the supply of dollars keeps coming out. This puts pressure on the exchange value of the dollar. Now, if you look at what the United States has done to itself over the last 30 years by offshoring its manufacturing, it's relocated its manufacturing in Asia. When these goods are brought back into the United States to sell, to market to Americans, they come in as imports. So the trade deficit goes up. The trade deficit has to be financed. The way that Washington has always financed it is by printing money. It could print money because the dollar was the world reserve currency and everyone used the dollar for its own international transactions. But if the dollar starts losing this role and fewer countries use it for the international transactions, how's it going to print dollars? How's the Fed going to, or the government going to print dollars to pay its bills if it's not the reserve currency? It's not in universal demand. So what happens? The dollar would poof, go down. That would mean a massive US inflation. It'd be a kind of inflation that results from currency collapse. It's nothing monetary authorities can do about that.
Yeah.
Those kinds of inflations are the real inflations, the real deadly ones. That was the kind of inflation the Weimar Republic in Germany had, and prior to the rise of the National Socialists. So this is really the American outlook. How long will the dollar hold on? How long will it survive? How quick will the transition be away from the dollar? We know that Russia and China now trade with each other in their own currencies. We know the BRICS are doing that. This involves South Africa as well. We see this spreading into South America. We see it spreading into Africa. So it means the demise of the dollar as world reserve currency, which means the demise of American power, because American power is based on the ability to pay bills by printing money. Nobody else can do that. And that's dependent on the dollar as reserve currency. So the sanctions did. It's really Washington shot itself in the head.
Not even the foot, the head.
Yeah, in the head. Yeah, in the head. Because it said, hey, you better get out of the dollars because we use them as a punishment mechanism.
Yeah.
Haven't we been telling that they've cut off their tongue, nose, and ears and poked out their eyes in spite of their face? Haven't we told them that America is committing economic suicide while thinking that she is trying to cower the nations? You can listen. If the nations are the ones buying your debt, how in the world do you think it's sane to go and destabilize the governments, dictate to them, alienate them, and even bomb them or try to assassinate their governments? How is that sane in any way? So now the world is moving away from dollars, as Rashid said earlier. The BRICS, there's over 20 nations that are jockeying for positions to be the first one to join the BRICS Plus organization. If they can't get in the BRICS Plus right now, they want to join the Eurasian Economic Union or the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, because all of those are affiliated. All of the global South nations are coming together with this stuff to go on outside of the dollar. This is why you have the United States coming up with a new world currency, because they don't want you to realize that the dollar right now is the one world, and the U.S. form of governance is the one world government, and they back it up through finance, through politics, and through the barrel of a gun. Say Rashid on this matter.
As I said before, why, you asked the question, why does she do it? Because she feels that she's the king. Remember, the king can't see anything but living on that throne. I can't imagine myself ever being in there with the hoi polloi or the populace. I don't understand that. Living within my means. You don't do what you want to do. You do what I tell you to do. So if I tell you to go and commit suicide, you better do it, because remember, I'm king. And remember in his feudal era, or when he had his kings and stuff, the king even owned everything and the subject owned nothing. Yeah. Even if you found a deer riding out there and you want to shoot it and eat it, that's my deer. You wanted to a stream going down. You wanted to get some. That's my water, right? So he owns everything, and you own nothing. And that's the same mindset he got. You don't do what you want to do, or how dare you do anything to help your people. You do what I tell you to do. And your people is who cares? They're insignificant. But what you better do is do what I say, because I'm on the throne and all of y'all are nothing. And you better do what I say, else I'll bring my gunships and my aircraft carriers and bomb you back into the Stone Age. That worked for a good while. Now, why does everybody want to get into the BRICS? Because that puts you under the umbrella of China and Russia. And if you can't go and bomb them into the Stone Age, right? You can't slap them down like you slap a Libya or Iraq or nothing. When they hit back real hard. So that's what the situation is. You can't treat them like a wicked stepchild. And so everybody sees that if I don't want to be bombed back, if I don't want that democracy to come to me, then I should go and join the other guys. Because the other guys are real strong. As Paul Craig Roberts said, they don't have anything that they manufacture that they ship around the world. So why anybody in this China, 90% of the world's goods is produced in China or her satellites. Singapore, Vietnam, who feed into that massive deal called China where they can outproduce anybody. So why in the world would I want to line up with this guy who got nothing but his words and his threats, or go over there with everybody who got all the BRICS and Shanghai Accord? When it's finished, they're gonna have just about mostly all of the world's oil. They got all of the.
And don't forget that Africa does a lot of production for China too. They're made in China. African nations do a lot of the manufacturing for that, and it's shipped overseas as made in China. A lot of people don't know that.
This is what I'm saying. It's they are creating an unstoppable juggernaut against the West. All the West has got threats and sanctions, but nothing else.
And think about it. They go to war with Russia. I want you to hear what this is like 43 seconds. What the guy says in comparison to what they're doing with Russia, and they're thinking about pivoting to China. I want you to pay attention to him.
China would be
so it's not me on the delay, it's them on the delay.
For the West, because
if they will allow,
China
here it is.
Standing as a socialist country, as a country that offers so much aid to other countries in Asia, Africa, Latin America. You know, it's an entire different ballgame. And, you know, if the United States tries to use Taiwan as a pawn against China, their defeat on that issue, I'm not talking militarily at this time, but politically, will be much more resounding than their impending defeat of using Ukraine as a pawn against Russia.
See that? Why? Why is that so? Again, I told them why. Because China has the political clout now, and it has it replaced the United States as the heart of the global economic engine. When that virus happened, they weren't looking for America to really open up. They were talking, when would China open back up? Because everybody got their goods from China. Do you know that even though India supplies the Western world with roughly, I think 40% of the medicines, do you know that 90% of the ingredients that come from China? India supplies the Western world with almost 40 or 50% of their medicine, but 90% of the ingredients come from China. So China is, it has been integrated itself in every avenue of commerce. So now to touch China would be to harm yourself economically. And if they call in the $1.3 trillion in debt and the U.S. refused to pay, it's going to steal the stampede out of the dollar, because now you're doing that with your number one trade partner, your number one investor, right? And your number one lender. And the nations will see that, oh, they did Russia like that. So no, we can't do any more trade with the dollar. So that will cause a stampede. If you think it's a stampede out of the dollars now because of Russia, try not paying what China, if China calls you in on your debt. And then militarily, you cannot win against China in Asia. Maybe you can beat them in the Atlantic, but you're not beating them in the South China Sea. That's not happening. So this he's talking about. There's a new paradigm shaping up. And this paradigm that is shaping up outside of the so-called Western world order, or the rules-based order, or the domination of America and Europe, or what they call the Five Eyes, including New Zealand and Australia. So this is unacceptable to the West, because let's be honest, let's just be honest. There are black people in the chat, there are white people in the chat, there are yellow people in the chat, there are brown people in the chat. Let's be honest. America is doing this because they don't want to see a country outside of their power, in a country
outside of the garden,
Caucasian. Yeah, that is one of the main reasons. It is really in an uproar about this situation, and this is why for the last few maybe decade or so, America is trying to put on this face of being past color in the government by putting Obama in and Kamala Harris in and Colin Powell and the two different races and puppets. Yeah, because they have this plan to move. They moved on Africa through Gaddafi and Mugabe in Zimbabwe, and now they're moving against Russia in Ukraine and Georgia. They moved against Latin America. Now they did these things. I want you to understand. It started under Obama. The overthrow of Gaddafi, the removal of Aristide again, the assassination attempts against Maduro, the raping, the capturing, the raping, and then the sodomizing, and then eventually killing of Muammar Gaddafi, the overthrow of Mugabe, the Honorable Mugabe. And now we're looking at, they're trying to overthrow Vladimir Putin. They're trying to demonize and then make war with Xi Jinping. The strategic, they want, because they don't want it to seem as though those old hens and that's behind the scenes are racist. They want it to seem like this is an inclusive colonialism, you know, and that's the reality of all of this.
Colonialism by another name is still colonialism, right?
That's what I'm telling you. That's what I'm telling you. But they want to put a soft face on colonialism. See, because they couldn't have done to Libya what they did to Libya under Obama if Bush or Biden or Trump was in there. They couldn't have done what they did to Hugo Chavez under Obama as if Bush, Biden, or Trump was in there. See, these are strategic moves by the powers behind the scenes that most people don't see. Now, I know it's getting late in the day, but I want to bring to you something. So I want you all to be very mindful of this, okay? We're coming up with a series called The Vampire Stream. My son made the logo. He and I sat down and he made the logo. I told him the logo. And so the Vampire Stream will be sometimes at nighttime. So always stay posted and look out for that thing. And sometimes it'll just be out. We'll just start because I know that some people are time zones ahead of us and behind us, and sometimes we got to make accommodations for them. So when we have the time, it may be in the evening or at night or even late at night, we may do the Vampire Stream. Hence the Vampire Stream and late at night or something like that, so that we can accommodate some of our overseas overseas support. We really want to do that. Rashid, I want you to have a few words before we close out.
Well, as we're seeing today, everybody getting off the dollar. And if everybody get off the dollar, you know that's going to happen. what happening next, don't you? That means everybody in America will the dollar will make the peso look like a Mount Everest. It can't be stopped.
Yeah.
Store up your food and get ready, because it's going to be a bumpy ride from now until the end.
Mm-hmm. On that note, we go out the same way we came in, with love and peace for every one of you who have love and peace for us. Always know that we love you, but God will always love you best. And I always got to say it as we go out. Mama, your baby boy loves you more than life. Deuces, everybody, and thank you.